when on high the heaven had not been named, and the earth below had not been called a name. The primal Absu and the chaotic Tiamat, who created both of them, mingled their waters together as a single body. They talk about how the heaven's not named and the earth below isn't named. The earth is there, so he's not creating the planet.
First, you're like, oh, okay, so they're there already. But it says, primeval Apsu who begat them, and chaos Tiamat, the mother of them both. It's saying Apsu who begat them, heaven and earth, and Tiamat, the mother of them both, heaven and earth. So it's saying that they did create them.
Oh, okay. When none of the gods have been called into being, none bore a name, and no destinies were ordained to them. In the midst of heaven, the god Lamu and Lahamu were created into being.
When it says in the midst of heaven, in the other translation it says within them. If they created heaven, and then it says in the midst of heaven, but also says within them, like, what is heaven? If it's within them and it's within this chaotic sea, so is the sea like the universe?
That's what I was assuming. In our blacklight posters, when you see the eternity, is it almost like that, where it's like you can't see the space, but whatever was in the universe before the Big Bang, maybe it's whatever created the planets and created the universe and created that, whatever those two things are, that's what's intermingling and that's what's creating life, or the other gods, or the other beings, or the other elements. Who even knows if you bring this down to alchemy, it's like, are these gods even gods, or are they just elements? Because if you start mixing elements and start mixing whatever the fuck they're made of, or whatever the waters are, it's like when you mix those things, you are going to get other things.
About the Lamu and Lahamu, the way that it says they were created is it says that they were called into being, or by name they were called. And I wonder if either A, that has to do with like sound, like I manifested them through vibrations and frequency or whatever, or if B, it has to do with some type of, magic with a K, like a true name. Like I called them by their true name and formed them, so just interesting wording, I thought.
Lamu and Lahamu, they grew in stature and size, and then Ansar and Kaisar were created, surpassing the other.
I guess there's a chance Lamu and Lahamu makes Anshar and Kishar.
Yeah.
But I think the Mumu thing next to Tiamat is saying like she makes Anshar and Kishar. And that is what our charts back up.
They prolonged the days and added on the years. It came forth Anu, their son, Ashtar's firstborn. Anu was his equal and his father's rival. And the god Anu begot his image, who we know as Enki, who was the master of his fathers.
It's funny that they bother putting that in. Anu was his father's rival, because they all like team up in a minute. So I don't know if that's to show you, it's not that they all fucking love each other so much. They're just done with the big two up top, the waters.
He was exceedingly strong and abundant in his wisdom. He had no rival among the gods, his brothers. He was mightier by far than his grandfather Ashar. Thus were established and were the great gods. The divine brothers banded together. They disturbed Tiamat as they surged back and forth.
In the abode of heaven, they troubled the mood of Tiamat with their fun. Apsu couldn't quiet them, and Tiamat was speechless at their ways. Their doings were loathsome, their ways unsavory. They were overbearing. But Tiamat and Apsu were still confused. They were troubled and in disorder. Apsu was not diminished in might, and Tiamat roared. She smote, and their deeds, their way was evil. Cried unto Mumu, his adviser, and said to him, O Mumu, thy adviser, that makes my spirit rejoice, come to us, let us go to Tiamat, which I thought was interesting, because they're the commingled waters.
Yeah.
Some people point out maybe it's the type of water that, like, you can see the difference.
Like when salt water meets fresh water, which is exactly what this is.
I wonder, because it says commingle. It doesn't say that they run into each other. You know what I mean? I think commingle, like mix together.
Oh, they're like swirling.
Yeah, so maybe it was that at one point, then when it settled, it went back to that or something.
Like a nebula.
And before Tiamat, they lay down and consulted on a plan with regard to the gods, their sons. Apsu opened his mouth and said to a resplendent Tiamat, the glistening one, their ways are very loathsome to me. By day I cannot rest, by night I cannot lie down in peace, but I will destroy their ways, that quiet may be restored. Let there be grieving, and let us lie down again in peace. When Tiamat heard these words, she raged, aggravated at her husband. She cried out to him, What, should we destroy that which we have built? Their ways are most troublesome, but let us attend to them kindly. Then Mumu takes Apsu off to the side and is like, we could still kill them. Like, we don't need...
We could do that.
When Apsu heard this, his face grew radiant and his heart filled with joy. Since he planned evil against the gods, by the neck he embraced him, his knees became weak and they gave way beneath him. Now whatever they had plotted between them was repeated to their gods, their firstborn. When the gods all heard this, at first they were all astir, and then they lapsed into silence and remained speechless. It's so easy to think in like Greek mythology, guys at Mount Olympus around a table,
Yes.
they're all fucked up, and then they're
Yes.
like, wait, shut the... He's coming.
And what's coming? The water, the Titan.
The all-wise, who knows all that is, went up, and beholding their muttering, was able to see through their scheme. He devises a master design against it, an artful spell which was surpassing and holy. He recited it and, quote, made it subsist in the deep. He made Apsu prone, drenched with sleep.
Like a potion.
But he specifically says spell and that he recited it. But then it's
Like
two words like drenched and poured that make it seem like more of a potion. Did you do the spell to the liquid?
It's almost like he's casting a spell, and whatever happens, the spell is happening above Apsu, and whatever the spell is making is dropping onto Apsu.
Mumu was powerless to wake him. He loosened his band, tore off his tiara, removed his halo, and put it on himself. Do you think that's three different things, or is that all the same thing?
That sounds like headgear.
Having stolen all Apsu's stuff, he slew him. Then he tied up Mumu and locked him away. Then he establishes a dwelling on Apsu. He laid hold of Mumu, holding him by the nose rope.
Remember how we go into the procession of the equinoxes? Marduk is the bull, which we see because Marduk turns into Baal, who is a bull, and he grabs
The nose rope.
like a bull. Whether it is Marduk or it is Enki, like the names get kind of fucky. This happened in like Babylon, but
They elevated their guy's prominence in the story. But Akkadian comes next. In their version, apparently, and all the stuff that they talk about Marduk being like, this guy's the fucking best.
Okay, so you kind of just move it up.
They keep having kids.
Yeah.
They all have a temple, and that god represents that temple. Remember how they talk about like stealing each other's statues?
Yeah.
I think that's like what this is. Like when Babylon is in power, they're telling the fucking story. The winner writes history. So they say Marduk's the guy that everyone was pumped on.
Because Marduk is the creator of Babylon.
Because that's what's happening now. But he's the newest. So he probably wasn't even around during this time. Or wasn't even prominent to be mentioned, at least. After he vanquished his foes and secured triumph over his enemies, he rested in profound peace in his sacred chamber, which he named Apsu, for shrines he assigned it. In the same place, his cult hut was founded. He and Damkina, his wife, dwelled there in splendor. In the chamber of the fates, the abode of destinies, a god most able and wise was endangered. What says, in the same place his cult hut was founded.
The Ajiji.
In the heart of Apsu, Marduk was created. His father, begat him, and Damkina, his mother, bore him. He sucked the breast of goddesses. The nurse that nursed him filled him with awesomeness. Alluring was his figure, sparkling the lift of his eyes. Lordly was his gait, commanding from of old. He saw his son Marduk. He exulted and glowed, his heart filled with gladness. He rendered him perfect and endowed him with a double godhead. What is a double godhead,
I
Mark?
don't know. That's incredible, though.
He was greatly exalted above them. His limbs in proportion were beyond comprehension, not suited for understanding, and difficult to perceive. He had 4 eyes which scanned all things. He had 4 large ears. When he moved his lips, fire blazed forth. His stature was surpassing. His limbs were enormous. He was exceedingly tall. It says his members, but I think that's like assumed to mean limbs, so I just put that. And I wonder, does this imply that they're like a telepathic race and that when he opens his mouth, fire comes out?
Those crazy alien documentaries, a lot of aliens do speak telepathically.
Right. So is their mouth just a fire weapon? Or they talk and just fucking sparks are flying out? He said, my son, my son, the son of the heavens. When you're the S-U-N, that's like Quetzalcoatl and his brother when they would all take turns being the sun. He was clothed with the halo of 10 gods. Does that mean 10 gods gave up their halo for him? Or does that mean he got a halo that was like worth all 10 gods' halo?
I think it's like he has the power of 10
His
gods.
is 10 times
He's
stronger.
strong.
Clothed with the halo of 10 gods, he was strong to the utmost. As their awesome flashes were heaped upon him, Anu created the fourfold wind and linked its power to Marduk. It says he consigned its power to him. It almost was like, this wind responds to me like a dog. I'm transferring ownership to you. Like it'll respond to you like that now. It takes the wind.
Elements are the weapons.
He created and stationed the whirlwind to produce wind streams that disturbed Tiamat. The gods, given no rest, suffer in the storm. I don't know if when it says the gods, it's saying, we put this thing here to fuck with Tiamat, but it's fucking with all the gods now, too. The gods, given no rest, suffer in the storm. Their hearts having plotted evil, they said to their mother Tiamat, when they killed your husband, Apsu, you did nothing to help him. You remained still.
The guilt.
When the dread fourfold wind he created, your vitals were diluted, and so we can have no rest. So I don't know if that means when they killed Apsu, being part of Tiamat, it fucked her up and spilled her vitals.
They're the essence of the universe.
Then they say, let Apsu be in your mind. Mumu has been vanquished. You are left alone. You endlessly pace around distraught. You do not love us. Pinched our eyes without cease. Let us have rest. To battle. Do you avenge them and render them as win? When Tiamat heard these words, she was pleased. When they say, let Apsu be in your mind, I think they're saying, like, that motherfucker's dead. He only exists in your head anymore. Like, let him be in your mind, but know that he's fucking gone and can't help you. Mumu's done. He was your friend. Like, he's out.
Yeah.
Got him by the nose rope. Like, you're alone. You walk around, you're fucking pissing all of us off. Which is weird, because she was the one protecting him before, but now she hears all this and she's pleased. She remembered the word of the bright god, and said, maybe that's Apsu, I don't know, and said, let us make monsters, and the gods in the midst. Let us do battle against the gods. They banded themselves together at the side of Tiamat and marched to war. They were furious. They endlessly planned mischief. They prepared for battle, growling, fuming, and raging. They joined their forces and prepared for war. Tiamat, who formed all things, added invincible, matchless weapons. She spawned monster serpents, sharp of tooth and merciless of fang. They were made with poison for blood.
Dear God.
In this part, when I have the in parentheses, this is both translations, because this was one thing that they were basically the same thing, but just kept wording differently, and I thought it was interesting. Roaring dragons / monster vipers. She has crowned them with halos, making them like gods, so that whoever sees them will become so stricken with fear that they shall die, and so that if these dragons or monster vipers, their bodies were to rear up, no one would be able to withstand their attacks or be able to turn them back. She set up vipers, the viper, and dragons, the dragon, and the monster Lahamu, the sphinx, and hurricanes, the great lion, and raging hounds, the mad dog, and scorpion men, the scorpion man, and mighty tempest, lion demons, and fishmen, the dragonfly, and rams, the centaur. They used cruel weapons that spared no one. They had no fear of the fight. No one could resist her commands. She made 11 kinds of monsters. Her firstborn son, Kingu, which it says her firstborn son, Kingu, is elevated to commander-in-chief due to him giving Tiamat support as well as forming her assembly. Kingu was to lead the ranks, give the battle signal, to advance, direct, and control the fight and combat. She made him sit on the council wearing expensive clothes and told him, I have cast a spell that will raise you to power in the assembly of the gods. I am giving you and trusting you with power to counsel all the gods. You are supreme, my only chosen spouse.
He's the only one who gets expensive clothing. Interesting.
Expensive is a weird translation, too, because it's like...
why? There's no money, there's no... I would assume, like, you would...
Just, like, nice clothes,
as a godly being, you wouldn't give a shit about wealth.
You are supreme, my only chosen spouse. May they magnify your name so that it prevails over all the Anunnaki. She gave him the tablet of destiny. In one translation, it's tablets, in the other one, it's tablet, and fastened it to his chest, saying, as for you, your command will be unchangeable. Now Kingu, having received the power of Anu, decreed the fate among the gods his sons, saying, let the opening of your mouth quench the fire god. Whoever is exalted in the battle, let him display his might. And that last quote, the other translation said, your word shall make the first subside, shall humble the power weapon, so potent in its sweep.
What, a machine gun?
Or a bomb, an atomic bomb, in its sweep.
The power weapon. That's incredible.
That's the first tablet.